Once upon a time, I dreamt of building a treehouse in Valheim. But not just a small one, and not even just a big one, but a huge one that uses unnaturally large trees, and one that could hopefully really make you feel like you are actually living in the tops of the trees. And with this build here today, I think I failed completely.
Got him!
No, I'm kidding. I think I might have actually finally pulled it off. So let's go check it out. Now this build, I've decided to do something special. I decided that instead of putting this build into my channel memberships, I will instead be offering this world for free. And that's because pretty soon I'm going to be releasing an adventure map for Valheim. It's going to be free to play for everybody. This map here today offers you a chance to kind of experience a little bit of what you're going to experience in the adventure map itself. Yeah, there's something pretty cool about kind of like walking underneath giant roots and like through forests that are kind of sealed off. I don't know. I think the vibes for the adventure map are going to be pretty insane. And also, I have concealed something within this build, somewhere hidden, that will actually give you a slight edge in the adventure map coming soon. So have fun finding the clue. Link in the description to join my Discord to get the world download for this map and also for the adventure map coming soon. But let's get into the video. So before we kick off the tour in the first area, which is the world spawn area, I thought it would be cool to show you how I built it. I started with some terraforming and I added in some increasing elevation heading towards the treehouse. And I also added a basic blueprint for the rest of the build at the same time. You'll see how I used this blueprint throughout the length of the video. The world spawn area was completed by simply framing out the newly terraformed land with a natural feeling curving stone wall, and by adding in some stairs and stone ruins. And finally, I also added in some nature features. So the first thing I did for working on this treehouse build was to kind of populate the area around the spawn with fun things to look at. You can see that the actual spawn area itself is completely surrounded by a stone wall. And you can also see that the wall itself works with the elevation of the land. So we go up 2 staircases here, and you can see how the wall itself is much higher all the way here in the back. You can also see that I've put together these little nature areas. Yep, I really like these little nature areas. Simple, but clean. So in terms of the entry, that's pretty much what we're working with here. A nice decorated area surrounded by some walls with some nature features. And that leads us up here to the first part of the build. So to show you how I turned this frame into this, and this frame into this, I'll first show you very quickly all of it in stages. In 8 different stages, you can see that I built the frame, then I added steps and handrails and a roof, and eventually I got to the top where I added the first communal area. Now breaking it down a little bit slower, I started off by adding stone for the bottom stairs and wood for the top stairs so that it kind of faded into wood as you get closer to the treehouse. I then added handrails and these tricky little bits here in the corners to get the look that I wanted for these curving stairs. After that, I added some wooden poles to the top half of the staircase for a roof. I then added a roof frame going up the curving staircase, which turned out pretty cool, and then I finished up the stairs with the roof itself. After that, I built up the first communal area connecting the staircases at the top, and I added in some extra roof features connecting directly up into the tree for a treehouse kind of look. Alright, so let's talk about this staircase. You can see over on the sides and underneath that I brought in some nice roots here to actually support the staircase, but they don't really actually do anything. They're just there for cosmetic reasons. I really like this staircase. You know, it feels kind of real almost with the supports from the roots, and it gives you access up into the higher parts of the trees, which of course is necessary. And also, there are 4 different types of roots that I used here in this build, and there is also another type of root which I used in the surrounding area, which you can see occasionally, and we'll be using that all over the place throughout the adventure map. So when you're working with 3 massive 860% oak trees, that means that you've got a lot of space to work with on these trees to make them feel and look real. So what I've done is brought in these roots on the bottom of the trees, but also incorporated roots throughout the build itself, which you'll see here in just a minute. Now, in terms of actually using the staircase, you can see that it's very usable. It is 4 meters wide, and it leads you right up to this really tall spiral staircase above me. Over here, going through the first communal area, the first thing I want to point out is these iron cage wall pieces. You'll see throughout the build that I used these to kind of semi-seal off areas. You know, this little shelf here is pretty simple, but I think it turned out pretty cool with a little bookcase in the middle and some other miscellaneous things. You can also see in this area that I made some custom benches with wooden signs and shutters, and also the connection to the tree itself. So each time we're connected to the tree, you're going to see that I've got vines and roots, but that is it for the first communal area. So let's go ahead and take the left side spiral staircase, and we're going to head up towards the first part of the treehouse. Now, you might have noticed some custom staircases in the initial blueprint for the project. I'll show you a method to build a custom staircase yourself without any mods, but first you can quickly see how I built it here using the nudge feature within the Infinity Hammer mod. If you don't have access to mods, you'll start with a circle like this built on the ground where you want your stairs. Then place vertical poles on the side, and then use those vertical poles to push up against to place your custom stairs. Then take down the vertical poles if you want, and you have a functional custom staircase. Now let's get back to the stairs, where I'm about to take you into the left main treehouse. This first treehouse I'll just tour, and once we get to the other treehouse, which is the same just inverted, I'll show you how I built them. Now, as we head into the treehouse, I want to immediately point out how open this space is. I really tried to leave a lot of openings all over the place, make it feel like you're living in nature. Now, I also wanted to make this space feel like it's actually lived in. So over here in this first little room, as you come into this side of the treehouse, you've got kind of a kitchen or a communal dining area where you could prepare food and also eat food. You can see that we've got some roots coming through from the oak trees, some leaves or some vines, and we've got different areas to sit and hang out. But yeah, I think the kitchen turned out pretty cool. Cozy little area here at the end of this treehouse. As you head down the treehouse, you'll notice that there are a few bedrooms. The little bedrooms are definitely simple, but I think they really fit the theme of kind of the open, airy treehouse space. You can see once again using the cage wall piece to kind of seal off part of the bedroom for the bed, and then everybody has kind of like a table and some chests and things to store their belongings. Now, as we head up this way into the very top of this treehouse, we've got my favorite room over on this side, and that is kind of the reading room. The reading room has everything you would need for kind of a chill afternoon, just hanging out in a treehouse, reading a book, wind coming through, drinks, places to sit. Now, this is definitely my favorite space over here in this treehouse. Just imagining sitting here and reading a book and hanging out is a really nice idea to me. I think it turned out really nice. We've got a big, nice, wide hallway here, even though we're in a treehouse. And on this side, we've got a little dedicated reading area. As you go down, you'll see that we've got some more little custom bedrooms. There's something about these little bedrooms, I don't know what it is, but it makes me want to like rent a room for a night, enjoy the view, sleep in the clouds, kind of in the trees, you know, I don't know. We've got openings and also iron cage wall pieces. We've got views, even it's not really out of this window though. I mean, even the end of the hallway down here, we've got the connection of the oak tree, the vines, the roots. It really is supposed to make you feel like you are up in the trees. Now that kind of closes things off for the first treehouse and leads us up this spiral staircase to a nice little area up here. I like to call these the platforms. The platforms can be shown quickly in 4 stages with the plan, the base, the roof, and then the walls. Breaking down some of the elements further, let's talk about the roof, which I built by first building a 2-meter wooden frame sticking out from the center of each side where I could place 45-degree O-corner pieces. After placing 2 rows, I placed a 1-meter wooden pole on top to create another roof frame for the top of the roof. You'll also notice that I filled in the gaps of this roof with a second layer of roof pieces on the inside. If you want to learn more about this technique, check out my video on strategies for making roofs and filling in roof gaps in Valheim. Another feature of the platforms is the walls, which are a very similar design to the walls on the main 2 tree houses. You can see here with a quick reconstruction how I built them on the actual main tree houses. And you can see here in my test area how I modified the original wall design to a wider format for the walls on the circular platforms. This allows me to have different parts of the build built with different shapes, but still share the same theme throughout. Finally, you can see how I built the staircase, which is very similar to the staircase down below with the long spiraling angled beams for the handrails. The only difference is that now, without the 1-meter poles to lift them up, I've instead carried the lower angled beams up and around the staircase for the handrails. Once I finished up with the first platform, I copied it over to the middle of the build and also the right side of the build, each at different elevations planned out from the very beginning. You can also see that at this time I used the same type of roof frame from the platforms on top of the custom spiral staircases so that they would match. Now, as you head up these spiral stairs, you kind of head out of this first treehouse building and into the highest area over on this side of the treehouse. If you come around this side, you can see you have a little cartography table, closed windows here on the sides where you've got another cartography table. So maybe this is like an area where you could do some planning. And also you've got a really nice view from up here of the spawn area and also of the rest of the treehouse. But you can see here how cool this build looks at night. I want to take you guys back down around to the first communal area, and we're going to go up the other staircase to that upmost tower. But first, I want to show you a little surprise which I put in this tower. So at the very top of this first little staircase tower, I decided to bring a root through and add some sap extractors, just for kind of the lore of the treehouse, I guess you could say. Alright, so heading up the taller staircase on the right, we get up to the main tallest tower. This side is kind of like the bedroom side where you've got connection to the tree with the roots and the leaves. This side over here is more for like sitting and eating, enjoying the view. And then finally you have this little kind of raised elevated section where you've got some storage for some mead. You've got a place to sit up here at the very top, closed off walls near the bedrooms, open all on this side and closed off. And closed off over here on this side. Alright, so now we'll head back down the staircase here and check out the right side of the treehouse. So the right side of the treehouse is essentially the same as the left side except inverted. Quickly shown, you can see the build in a few stages here. To explain my process a little bit slower and better, I started off by filling in the bottom middle portion of the frame with a 1 meter tall wooden section that is supposed to feel like the bottom of a boat, which goes the deepest into the water. Then I filled the outer section of the frame with floors and beams. I then used angled beams to connect the outer and inner section of the frame to fully create that curving kind of boat-like bottom. After that, I used the Infinity Hammer mod to bring in those sections of wall which you've already seen me working with before. Then I built a roof frame sticking out from the build for the roof. To understand the roof, you'll need to check out the roof on the opposite side, where you can see that it gets taller with 3 separate sections as it goes towards the center. So on this side, where the frame gets shorter near the center, I've flipped around the roof sections so that the shorter section is in the middle and the taller section is on the outside. And then finally, you can see that I added some supporting angled wooden and iron beams to make it look like the treehouse is being stabilized by the tree. Once again, inverted from the other side. Alright, so this side of the treehouse. This one is completely opposite from the other one, so it's going to bend down instead of upwards. So over here on this one, you might recall that we've got these really tall roofs and spaces, and we've got all this open, kind of airy feel to this living space. But then over here, you've got kind of a more cozy feel, and you're kind of more enclosed within the treehouse. On this side, you can see we've got connection to the oak tree with roots and leaves. We've got a nice little area here for some wood to be stored. This turned out to be one of my favorite areas of the build, with just the logs placed everywhere and kind of the feeling of a workshop you get when you're here up in the trees. Now, as we head down this way into this area, you are going to notice that there are actually a bunch of little boxes and crates up on the little open areas below the roof. Here in this room, there are barrels, because this is a barrel kind of themed room. We'll talk about that in a second. But I did just want to point out the use of all of the open space. As we head down this way, we've got another little custom bedroom, closed off window, open windows. And here we've got the lowest section of this side of the treehouse. For this lowest section, just like on the other side where I had a bookcase and a library, I thought it'd be cool to do kind of a themed room. So I did a drinking room. You can see it here where we've got all the little mead barrels stored. You've got a little staircase which leads you down, and you could grab the mead. You can't actually even go in here though, but you know, it's really the idea that is important here. Just kind of like a little drinking room, maybe a little table where you could keep track of the inventory, and you've got a little area over here where you could like pour some drinks. Alright, so this is a Viking game. You can't blame me for putting a mead area in the treehouse. Come on. As we head down a little bit further, we've got another bedroom. And of course you need an area to meet up and hang out. So that's what we've got here on the end. Connected up to the oak tree, the roots, the vines. You've got tables, food, seats, chairs. A place to hang out. With a nice dining room, some food. You've got a little open window to enjoy the view. And also you've got roots and leaves coming out of the tree. Now that finishes up this side of the treehouse and leads us up to this side. So once again, over on this side, we've got a nice spiral staircase kind of curving around the edge of the oak tree, and that leads you up to an upper platform. In this upper platform, we've got a little bedroom over here on this side, which is kind of like tucked into the corner, comes around and has a table. You can see how the windows open up, and from here you have one of my favorite views of the entire build. You've got 4 wide open windows here, giving you a view of the spawn area and also allowing you to look back towards the treehouse itself. And you can also see how the tree kind of comes into play here, almost covering the room with roots and leaves, really trying to bring in those treehouse vibes. On this side over here, we've got another little bedroom, and we've got some kind of closed off windows, and that's pretty much it for the actual build.